Lang, a modest screenwriter, recently got too busy and missed his son's match. His wife took their son, Little Chong, to the game alone. During the game, Little Chong kept missing, clearly distracted. His mother cheered for him relentlessly from the sidelines. He tripped while trying to dodge an opponent. That fall marked the turning point in their lives. He got up and tried to keep playing. Just then, Lang arrived at the field. Together they cheered for Little Chong. Fueled by their voices, he dashed forward with confidence. He took a final shot goal. His parents ran in and hugged him tightly. But just as the joy was peaking, Little Chong collapsed again, this time motionless. They rushed him to the hospital immediately. Doctors began emergency treatment on Little Chong. He was placed on a ventilator with full monitoring. His heart stopped, and doctors performed CPR. After a tense effort, his heartbeat returned. Cardiologist Dr. Dama was called in for evaluation. After examination, he confirmed a serious heart condition. The child's heart was functioning at only half capacity. A full heart transplant was urgently required for recovery. The news shocked both Lang and his wife. They were both average working-class citizens. Lang earned little, and his wife worked part-time as a tutor. After a financial review, the hospital recommended conservative treatment. The doctors warned that without surgery, heart failure could strike at any time. Despite the cost, Lang decided to go through with the transplant. The surgery would cost around 2 million yuan. The couple began raising funds from every source possible. The couple first contacted their insurance provider. They had purchased a critical illness plan for Little Chong, but the company responded. Imported medicine and organ transplants were not covered. They went to the local welfare office to request government assistance. The staff informed them only fully unemployed couples qualified for serious illness subsidies. Lang and his wife checked their bank account at an ATM. They had just over 100,000 yuan in savings. It was far from enough to cover the operation. They were overwhelmed with hopelessness. Still, they refused to give up. Friends of Lang contributed what they could. Little Chong's school also held a fundraiser. Teachers and students offered help enthusiastically. Yet the donations barely scratched the surface of the total cost. Eventually, they made the decision to sell their home. Once the deal was done, the house stood empty and cold. They sat on the bare floor in silence. But they knew it was the only way to save their son. On Little Chong's birthday, they brought him a cake to the hospital. He was too weak to blow out the candles. Seeing their son so frail, their hearts sank further. Lang began working multiple side jobs to earn extra money. His wife sold her wedding ring out of desperation. One day, while doing part-time work, a bus passed by, catching his attention. The bus featured an ad with well-known reporter Anji. He rushed to the TV station, hoping to get media exposure. He asked Anji to help publicize their situation, hoping donations might come through the coverage. However, a misunderstanding broke out between them. Their conversation ended without progress. Lang returned to the hospital, disappointed and drained. He sat beside his son's bed, watching the boy struggle to breathe. A heavy helplessness settled over him. To maintain daily treatment, Lang started selling his own blood for cash. At that moment, Dr. Dama delivered news. Little Chong had officially entered the transplant waitlist. Once a suitable heart appeared, surgery could begin. But the hospital stressed once more. The full payment had to be made, or the heart would go to another patient. The couple pleaded with the hospital to cover the upfront cost. But the doctor said there was nothing he could do. He suggested applying for the mayor's newly issued serious illness subsidy. They submitted the paperwork that very night, only to be told it would take at least 40 days for approval. Little Chong didn't have that long. His wife broke down and argued fiercely with Lang. They kept repeating one sentence through their tears. "What else can we do?" The next morning, Dr. Dama brought urgent news. A matching heart had become available for Little Chong, but the full payment had to be made within 1 hour, or the heart would be reassigned to the next recipient. Lang rushed to an underground loan office, signed a high-interest agreement, promising full repayment in 2 days. Holding the cash, hope returned to his eyes. Anything was worth it if it meant saving his son. But on the way back to the hospital, Lang got a call from his wife. Her voice was hushed and shaken. She had overheard a conversation between Dr. Dama and the hospital director. The director had ordered the heart be reassigned someone else. The reason? Instructions from higher up. Dama argued back, visibly angry and frustrated. Hearing this, Lang's face turned dark with rage. He turned around and sped toward the hospital. He arrived to find Dr. Dama slumped in a hallway corner. The doctor looked ashamed, unable to explain. Lang stormed into the patient wing to confront them. But the noise alerted security guards. He was forcibly dragged out of the ward and ejected from the building. He sat on the steps outside, completely hollowed out. Sitting outside the hospital, Lang's eyes were vacant. Then, he noticed the pistol on a nearby officer's belt. A thought crystallized in his mind. He stood up, stepping into a plan he couldn't undo. A few hours later, Lang returned to the hospital, concealing a stolen firearm in his bag. He disabled every surveillance camera on site, chained all entrances and elevators shut, and severed both internet and external signals. The entire building became an isolated fortress. He took control of a section of the hospital, holding several medical staff and patients hostage. He demanded journalist Anchi be brought inside to broadcast his story live for the whole nation. The police sent veteran officer Zhang Zhengyi to negotiate. He disguised himself as a journalist to sneak inside. But the real Anqi arrived and volunteered to go in herself. She became the only journalist allowed entry. On live camera, Lang revealed the truth. His son was waiting for a transplant, but the hospital had stolen the heart for someone else with connections. The hostages, initially terrified, were moved by his story. Some began to cry quietly. Others even applauded. Then the hospital director appeared on screen, accusing Lang of making everything up. But no one believed the director. Even the doctors he trained kept their heads down. A pregnant woman among the hostages asked, "What's the difference between that boy and the one in my belly?" Public emotion outside the hospital surged. Online viewers began to support Lang. In that moment, he transformed from criminal to father. The live stream rolled on, while the director kept deflecting blame. Lang was furious. He lunged forward and kicked the director to the ground, then pointed the gun directly under his chin. The entire room froze in silence. The director finally cracked and admitted the truth. The heart that was meant for little Chong had been reassigned by orders from higher-ups. Lang demanded, "Whose life is more valuable than my son's?" The director mumbled he was only following orders. Lang gave a direct order. "Contact the police now, bring the heart back, and start an official investigation into the hospital's transplant system." Anqi calmly raised a crucial point. That heart had already left the hospital hours ago. Was it still viable? Lang answered firmly. "As long as it's under 8 hours, it's still usable." There were less than 3 hours left on the clock. Anqi pressed further. "What if the heart has already been transplanted?" The question silenced Lang. He looked at the camera, saying nothing. He already knew the answer, but wasn't ready to accept it. At that moment, the public's view of him shifted. Once seen as a criminal, now a desperate father fighting the system. As tension mounted, Police Chief Tang Khan arrived at the hospital in person. He immediately confronted Zhang Zhengyi, blaming him for allowing a journalist into the hostage zone. Zhang stayed composed and pushed back. He believed Lang wasn't a criminal, but a father. The argument exploded on the scene. In the end, the chief suspended Zhang temporarily, taking over command himself. Tang Khan deployed special forces, ordering them to infiltrate the hospital through the air vents. One officer managed to get close to the target, but just as he was about to fire, he lost his balance and fell through the ceiling. The mission failed on the spot. The fallen officer tried to grab his weapon, but Lang kicked it away before he could. The entire scene was captured by the body camera. Lang stared directly into the camera and mocked them. "Is that all you've got?" Even after this, Lang made a surprising move. He released 2 hostages, the pregnant woman and her husband. Once outside, they told the media, "He's not a bad man. He's a father trying to save his son." But right after, one special forces officer was shot dead. The footage showed Lang pulling the trigger. The crowd was shocked. Had he finally killed someone, or was it staged? Meanwhile, Zhang Zhengyi started a covert investigation, trying to trace where the stolen heart had gone. His contact found a key lead. The heart had ended up at the organ donation center. At the same time, reporter Anji infiltrated the transplant office, investigating whether the donor records had been faked. While the director stepped out, she snuck back into the office and found a transplant file for little Chong's heart. It claimed the heart had already been transplanted. Anqi froze. That wasn't possible. She realized the records had been forged. Just as she was about to leave, the transplant director walked back in. He noticed the business card had been moved and sensed something was wrong. He searched the room and found Anqi hiding inside. He lunged to silence her, but Zhang Zhengyu's men arrived just in time. They found a voice recorder in his pocket. It contained audio proof of the organ trafficking cover-up. Inside the hospital, Lang continued racing against time. At that moment, the mayor's secretary, Sa Ding, arrived at the hospital entrance and began comforting Lang's wife. He told her the heart had been retrieved, and surgery would proceed right away. She quickly called her husband to share the news. Hearing the news, Lang was overwhelmed with joy. But just then, another report reached him. The head of public health had fallen to his death under suspicious circumstances. Standing behind the hospital's main door, he looked through the glass directly at Sa Ding. Suddenly, he sensed something was off. Zhang Zhengyi tried to convince him to surrender. Lang hesitated. His instincts told him the good news was bait. Sure enough, snipers were already in position. During their exchange, a sniper fired. The bullet shattered the gun in Lang's hands, but missed his body entirely. He looked down. The bulletproof vest had saved his life. He had taken it off the fallen special ops officer earlier. Lang now knew for certain the promised transplant was a complete lie. Fury consumed him. He turned back inside the hospital to find the truth. He saw the director sneaking to hide a phone. Lang grabbed it and redialed the last number. A phone started ringing in a nearby ward. He followed the sound to a hidden room. He pushed the door open and found a teenage boy lying on the bed with a beating heart in his chest. It was the heart that once belonged to little Chong. That boy was the mayor's son. The mayor stood at the bedside and actually smiled when he saw Lang. He said, "I just wanted to save my son too." Yet he never mentioned stealing little Chong's heart. Lang could no longer contain himself. He pointed the gun straight at the mayor's head. Outside, Sai Ding realized the mayor was in danger. He ordered an immediate assault on the hospital. At that moment, Zhang Zhenggeji compared footage carefully. Lang had never actually fired a fatal shot. He had killed no one. Zhang chose to believe him, and exposed Sai Ding as the real manipulator behind everything. Sting denied everything, and shouted, "Where's your proof?" At that moment, Anchi returned. Holding the voice recorder, she plugged it into a speaker, and played all the tapes. Sting's voice was heard discussing the organ theft. The whole nation heard the truth. The public erupted with fury, demanding the mayor and S.A. Ding resign immediately. Ding, panicking, grabbed a radio. A thunderous blast brought down the front doors, and ordered the tactical team to breach the hospital. Even Chief Tang Ken couldn't tolerate it anymore. He stepped forward and punched Sai Ding to the floor. As the door collapsed, Lang walked out holding the mayor at gunpoint. He spoke to the crowd. "I only wanted the heart that belonged to my son." From a distance, a sniper pulled the trigger again. The bullet shattered his gun, and this time, it hit his body. Lang fell to the ground, still smiling faintly, because before he collapsed, he had signed over his heart, giving his own heart to his son. Inside the hospital, emergency surgery began. Doctors operated on little Chong. The boy survived, but Lang never woke up again. His wife and son knelt by his grave. Zhang Jingyi and Qi and the former hostages all came to pay respects. Under a distant tree, the mayor's son stood silently, holding white flowers, silently mourning.